Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today, and we're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. And our guest is Lars Maaløe. He's co-founder and CTO at Corti. Welcome, Lars.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excited for the discussion. This is part of our Ambient Clinical Voice series. Excited to hear about your solution. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and Corti.
So yeah, I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Corti. I also hold an associate professorship at the Technical University of Denmark. My background is machine learning heavy. I'm based in New York, as you can probably hear in the background from all of the sirens. I've done a lot of research within machine learning, been working for various of the big tech companies before getting this crazy idea of starting my own company. And yeah, Corti is now approximately a little bit more than 100 employees right now. We just raised our Series B of 60 million US dollars, and we're continuing in building out ambient technology for health insurance, for PSAPs, public safety answering points, 911 lines, etc., nurse lines, home health, etc. So everywhere where you have communication and healthcare communication, we deploy our technology.
Interesting. So let's dive into that. Talk to us about what is the Corti ambient clinical voice solution for healthcare?
Yeah, so our technology is real time. So and we are listening in on healthcare communication, and then we're giving prompts and advice throughout that conversation. Those prompts and advice can be related to guidelines, it can be protocols, it can be related to questions you could ask in order to get more information from the caller or the patient. And our AI is then taking all of that information and then it's structuring that information in order to ask more questions or give prompts back to the healthcare professional, basically being an assistant in the heat of the moment when you're in that conversation with the patient. And then at the very end of the day, it helps with the documentation, and then it does the coding and so on, so that you can send that patient case out of the system.
Yeah. So this has become one of the hottest spaces in health IT with a lot of solutions. How does your solution compare to things like Nuance's DAX, Copilot, Suki, AWS Health Scribe, Nabla, Ambient Healthcare, OnPoint Healthcare Partners? I probably missed a few, but I kind of like to do the list since we've covered all of them, and are comparing it. How do you see it comparing to those solutions?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, and a lot of the things that we're doing is that we're so basically a healthcare communication and conversation is not good if you don't get the appropriate amount of information out of that communication, right? So if you don't ask the question the right questions to the patients, you don't get the right information from that patient, and so forth. So basically, how we normally compare is that we take that stance in terms of being real-time in that communication such that we get the most valuable amount of information such that we can also document. In a normal documentation inside healthcare, whether it's a doctor documenting it or whether it's a nurse writing clinical notes, there is the risk of missing information. And there is a lot of research on this, on missing information, that summarization of the conversation. We can basically make sure that we get more information in that real-time moment such that we can also document everything for the patient such that the patient is sent off to the right next point of entry inside the healthcare system. That's a big differentiator when you look at the other solutions, where many of the other solutions are more focused on the documentation afterwards. So basically taking that conversation, sending all of that conversation to an LLM, and then predicting a journal record to send to the EHR system only, right? Then on top of that, we've built some really, really advanced models that we have also gotten through a lot of peer-reviewed research on medical coding and helping out with finding the right symptom descriptors that are matching a diagnosis and so forth. So we're doing a lot of research in terms of our predictive modeling, which is a big differentiator when you actually look into how to really, really provide value inside healthcare.
So did I understand this right, that you said that as they do this ambient listening, right? You're ambiently listening to the conversation. Your solution, the Corti solution, will prompt them to say to get more info. Is that right? Am I understanding it right? How you're approaching, because as you said, most of them are just listen and then create the note, and if there's holes, that's up to the reviewer, essentially the doctor usually, to add that. You're listening and saying, hey, there's a hole here, can you give us more info? Is that, am I understanding this right?
Yes, but we're a little bit more humble than that. So
Okay.
so we rely very much on the medical professional and the training of that medical professional. So we are giving small nudges in terms of saying, you didn't ask about this question. This could be a good question to ask next time, and so on, right?
Hmm.
And then we rely very much on the medical professional also to make their own stance based on their training and so forth, whether they actually want to prompt that question, right? Because the human is very much still in the driving seat, and we're basically with our technologies just helping out, augmenting that human, similar to putting on a pair of glasses or putting on a hearing aid, making sure that that they get all of the prompts and all of the help throughout these conversations. See us as a live Google search in the background that is specialized towards these conversations.
Interesting. So talk to us about the workflow. What does that look like for a clinician? Is it a cell phone? Is it a tablet? Is it a workstation? Is it microphones in the room? Which ironically, I wrote about 15 years ago. I said, this is going to happen. Now it's real. But, like what is the workflow that majority of your physicians are using?
Yeah, so we started out virtually. So the virtual workflow was an application on the screen of the medical professional that is sitting there in front of either a video conversation or a telephone call or even radio communication, where our application was in front of their display. That's basically how it works today. Also in the physical setting, when there is a microphone, then we're on the screen of a physician or a nurse and so on, and that physician or nurse can then toggle how much they want us involved in the conversation.
Interesting. So most people are using some sort of desktop or laptop and pulling that up and turning it on to record and turning it off if they're done.
Yeah, or even iPads. So yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. And the big question with all of this, because some of the original ambient clinical voice was kind of virtual scribes. So how much of your solution is automated with technology, versus humans in the background kind of verifying it?
Yeah, so we are fully automated. So no humans verifying these live cases and so forth. But when that is said, a lot of our solution is also a quality improvement framework. So we use the feedback from our customers and we give them targeted entry points in terms of where they should look into maybe increased quality, because our AI has found these gaps or holes or potentials for optimizing quality. And those quality improvements initiatives that the customer can then conduct inside our software, we're using to feedback to the AI. So there is a companionship in terms of the quality assurance and quality improvement initiatives from the healthcare institutions that we are then getting back in order to improve our AI. But for the individual case and the live recommendations, since it's live, there's no time for having a human that is sitting somewhere and giving that recommendation to her. So
yeah, I assumed so when you said real time, but you never know. And it makes sense, right? Humans are involved in the quality improvement and the adjusting of the algorithms going forward. That seems like table stakes these days. Talk to us about EHR integration. How do you approach integrating this data with the EHR? Does it work with all the EHRs? What's your approach there?
So similar to everyone else, we are following the protocols that we need to follow, and whether it's the fire protocol, HL7, and so forth, and we are integrating also to all of the bespoke EHR systems that are out there. As you know, that market is quite segmented, less and less, which is good for a company like ours, because then we have less integration points, but we have integrations to all of these EHRs, and we basically follow the protocols. And then we then in the case where the EHR system is maybe outdated or maybe not following those protocols as standard, then we're making a small passer in between such that we can pass that information into the EHR system adequately. We also integrate into CRM systems and so on. Our customers they're covering a lot of ground, so not all of them are directly writing their documentation into an EHR system. So for instance, if it's a coaching line or something similar to that, then they can have tendency of using Salesforce or stuff or similar systems. And for a 911 center, they use computer-aided dispatch systems. So yes, we are integrated to all of those systems because we need to hand over our derived knowledge from the AI into another system after the conversation.
Interesting. And talk to us about the training of the clinician. I find this one of the most interesting questions for companies like yours. Does the clinician have to change the way they're talking in the exam room to make this work? It's interesting, your prompts that kind of forces them to change it in a nice, normal way. So that's interesting. But talk to us about that evolution of kind of training a clinician to get up and live on Corti. And maybe I think we're coming from PTSD over all the training we had to do for EHR. Ambient clinical voice is so much easier. But anyway, talk to us about how you see that and what you've experienced with clinicians when it comes to kind of training and onboarding.
Yeah, we started our company in the midst of Babylon Health being on a big journey. So 2016, we had the first steps in terms of starting Corti, and one of the things that we saw is that we believe that we need to build into the workflows that are currently there at the provider's side and also the payer side. And those workflows, they are so ingrained and they're there for a reason. So they're very difficult to change, and you need to have a really, really good reason to change them, right? So this is healthcare. It's not. It's really important if you want to change your workflow, right? So how we onboard a new customer is that our technology is. There was a physician that there was a lady calling it the shell, and he meant the shell around their workflow, right? So we adapt their workflow into our technology and our software. And that's how we don't need any special training, because they basically follow their old workflow that they were trained in for that institution, but just in a more updated and more seamless integrated interface that is then integrating with their workflow. So that means that when we point towards a question that they could ask and so forth, we point within their workflow. And that links me to building safe AI systems, right? Because one of the things that we are very, very big advocates for is making sure that we don't suddenly build this AI system that should reason about something completely new, right? I don't think that that's reasonable to think that I can sit here as a technologist and figure out something that is a completely new way of approaching a consultation and so forth. No, we need to optimize those consultations into the system that is built out there. So that's basically what we do. We point the physician towards their own system and or adjacent systems that they could find good use of. So hence, in terms of the onboarding and the training, simple, because they follow their workflow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's the beauty of Ambient Voice is that it does adapt to their existing workflow. We have heard over and over on this series of Ambient Clinical Voice interviews was that, obviously the ambient clinical listening can't hear things that they see. And so they have to voice those. I assume you have, similar challenges. Is that what a lot of the prompts are? Is, oh, you didn't describe which knee it was, or, you said knee, but you didn't say left or right, or is that some of the prompts, or are there other things that are, because I think this prompting idea of prompting them for questions they may want to ask or data they need to share is interesting. Are those some of those things that are prompted, or are there some common things that are like, yeah, we find doctors often leave this out?
Yeah. I think so. That would be an annoying system, right? If our AI was prompting something that the AI couldn't see, but asking for that information as further information. So no, we wouldn't do that. So the AI is capable of basically progressing in a workflow or dialogue, and also well knowing that information is not given, but it's clear. And the way that it's working underneath the hood, if it's okay if I just dive a little bit deeper into what it's actually doing.
Yeah, please.
AI, given some context inside a conversation, then it's looking at the similar historical conversations that it's allowed to look at. That's an important note here. And then it's looking at guidelines, workflows, and so forth. And from that context, it's building its recommendation towards the question that it can ask. Thereby, we're making sure that the AI is not going out of bounds, and we're making sure that the AI is not suddenly starting, towards your point here, asking annoying questions that the physician can see and can easily document after the fact as an additional pointer.
Interesting. So let's talk about accuracy. How do you measure accuracy for the solution? What can people expect? How do you approach kind of this question of how accurate is this, solution?
Yeah, so I've from the very beginning of our company getting founded, I've been asked by venture capitalists, do we actually need to invest so much in research? And yes. so in terms of our accuracy, is that we have basically invested quite a lot of heavy resources in machine learning research and also clinical research. And the clinical research that has been conducted has been our customers conducting that clinical research and us offering the models to them. They have, in all cases, have had a holdout data set that they're validating the models on and so forth. So basically, back to your accuracy here, we hold very dearly that we need to prove the accuracy on real life data sets, and we need to do it in proper academic diligence here. So to be a little bit cheeky here, I would point towards our research and where we have shown a lot of the accuracy, and we have also done a lot of research on machine learning methodologies and so forth in order to make sure that we're actually also a sanity check that we're on the frontier in terms of our technology and our ability towards predict.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely have to get the links and include those in the show notes in the article when we publish it. That's an interesting approach. And does this product work for every specialty? Is it designed for certain specialties versus others? What's been your experience across? I mean, there's so many specialties within healthcare with unique language and unique workflows, et cetera. You know, how are you approaching specialties?
So I think that it's fair to say that until now it has worked for every specialty. Since our technology is brought out from the behavioral health to the 911 sector to the hospital command center to the physician that is a general practitioner and so forth, right? We're covering quite a lot of different use cases. While that is said, we have learned a little bit something at each step, right? And that has made our product more coherent. It has made it more mature. It has made it more so on and so on. And we have learned quite a lot from each of those steps that we could also feed back to the other use cases. So basically, when we onboard a new customer, we go from the outset, especially if it's a new customer that is a new specialization or something similar to that. Then we go from the outset of saying, that specialization, we need to respect it, the fact that we need to prove the technology diligently. So we have a startup phase where we build a big data analysis report based on their data, making sure that we're actually hitting the right accuracies within our framework. And then we have a rollout where we're also testing with the end users that these recommendations and this documentation and this predictive predictions from the machine learning models are working as they should. So.
You ever bump into a case where, you know, you go optimize it for mental health or something, right? And when you do that, it ruins maybe another specialty or throws that off, or am I misunderstanding how the technology works that, you know, if that something like that could happen?
I think that it's a really good question, and I believe if it's okay to perspectivize a tiny bit in terms of what we're seeing in research right now is that we're seeing some of these LLMs. They are when they are very optimized towards, for instance, medical QA datasets or multiple choice datasets here, exam datasets and so forth, then you can also see that some of these models are potentially digressing quite heavily on other tasks, right? Yes, we've tried to train models where that is happening. How we are getting around it is that an old deep learning advice is to keep a lot of validation datasets handy every time you train a new model. We don't want to digress, right? If we digress somewhere, then it's because we have formulated the model or we have trained the model in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So we're continuously have a lot of different validation sets for our different use cases, and for each use case that we onboard, we have new validation sets where we can then evaluate our performance. And if we digress somewhere, that could be a learning, right? There can be sure. a digression that is also telling a little bit something on our new data set or our old data set, but we need to find that needle in the haystack every time there is digression such that we can actually investigate on what is the cause of that. Interesting.
Yeah, it took me back to all my software product testing days where a new feature would break an old feature. But now you can do it at scale with the data sets. So that's interesting. You can automate some of that checking. So that's really interesting. Well, I think, you know, everyone's going to want to know where they can go to learn more, to try it out. You know, what's the best way for people to learn more about Corti?
I think that our website is a good place. I think that a lot of our research, we just got a big research paper accepted this morning. We're probably going to see more about that as well. And then I think that follow us on the conferences, social, etc. And ask for a demo. We are here and ready.
Awesome. Well, Lars, I appreciate you taking time to talk with us and share about this really interesting product. We'll be excited. As I've said to all the ambient clinical voice people, we'll have to have everyone back in 6 months because it will all be different. Not everything, but the evolution is going so quickly. The improvement and the lessons learned is happening quickly. So appreciate you taking time to talk with us, and thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting applications. Thanks, Lars.
Thank you.